Okay, guys, so thanks to Miranda, and she's also relaying a shout out to Grizzly True Crime and MB Inc. Their channels are both in the description. We have the warrants for Kim and Deborah Clenney that we're going to take a look at. We also have an interview with a neighbor from Texas where Courtney ended up moving to live near her parents. That has a really weird story about Courtney Clenney chasing her teenage, well, he's 18, but that's a teenager sort of, right? Asking, she's drunk, she's walking around, she sees this neighbor, it's like nighttime, and she's like, hey, can you walk me home? And then tries to make the kid kiss her. Keeps saying I only watched a part of it, and I'm like, I'm going to wait till we get here. But it seems like it's going to be really crazy. We're going to look at that. And then we also, you'll never guess, but our favorite attorneys did another TV interview. So we're going to take a peek at that too. We're coming off the tail end of a pretty detailed motion hearing. It was only about an hour and 12 minutes long yesterday. I just did a summary. You guys may be coming over from that video. But in short, a big part of that motion hearing involved, should we have a protective order to make sure certain evidence isn't getting out into the press and public record? And should there be a gag order when it comes to speaking to the media? And then right after we have, guess there's no gag order. So we'll get into all that. We're going to start with the warrants. There are links to all of these things in the description. Again, thank you, Miranda. The warrants, I double checked. I went to the last page of each of them. And it looks like the statement of facts is the same, because if we toggle back and forth, it is the exact same length and structure on this final page. So other than these details up here with the actual identifying information between Kim versus Courtney Clenney, I don't think there's any notable differences. We're just going to read through the statement of facts once rather than do it twice. And just so everyone knows, the charge that we're looking at, there is no evidence tampering. Part of the motion hearing addressed, the state actually said it first, that they were a little upset that TMZ had some type of information that doesn't exist anywhere, that these charges involve any type of evidence tampering. The defense was very happy to thank the state for mentioning that there was no evidence tampering, especially since they were not a part of it. You'll see that this charge here really relates to this Florida statute, which relates to a person commits an offense against users of computers, computer systems, computer networks, or electronic devices if he or she willfully, knowingly, and without authorization or exceeding authorization accesses or causes to be accessed any computer, computer system, computer network, or electronic device with knowledge that such access is unauthorized or the manner of use exceeds authorization. So that's the charge that these warrants relate to. These warrants were served not just on Kim and Deborah, but apparently also on Courtney Clenney as well, so she's got another charge to deal with. So let's go through the statements of facts. We'll get through the video as well, and then take a look at what the attorneys are saying in their new interview. And again, we're just going to read one, but it looks word for word the same for both Kim and Deborah. So Mindy Glazer signs off on this warrant against Courtney Taylor, Kim Duane, and Deborah Lynn. She's going to say, who together as principals of one another, maybe I can zoom in for you guys a little bit, who one another along with other uncharged individuals. Oh. Okay. I didn't think I'd stop reading this quickly, but at the hearing today, in a very panicked voice, Sabrina Puglisi, the defense counsel, was like, Your Honor, I know you need time for other motions, but can you please let us know if, are phone calls being recorded? Are they listening to us? Are we going to have any warrants against us? And the state was like, there's no wiretaps. There's no warrants. We currently only plan, and that's the wording, we currently only plan to issue warrants for Deborah's iCloud, Kim's iCloud, and then both of their iPhones. But here this wording says, these three parties, together as principals of one another, along with other uncharged individuals. So, if not Courtney, if not Kim, if not Deborah, why is this language here? I think the plot may thicken soon. did commit one count of unauthorized access or excessive access to a computer system, or electronic device of Christian Obumseli, a black male with a date of birth of April 12, 1994, and or his estate, hereinafter the victim, a third-degree felony, in violation of the statute that we just looked at, contrary to the form of the statute, in such cases made and provided, and against the peace and dignity of the state of Florida. Your affiant is Detective Adrian Perez, who has been a law enforcement officer with the Miami-Dade Police Department since January 2016 and is currently assigned to the Cybercrimes Bureau. Your affiant is, so this is who's filling out like the affidavit that was used to obtain this arrest warrant. Your affiant is a federally deputized task force officer with the United States Secret Service's South Florida Cyber Fraud Task Force. That's a hell of an acronym. Like, what? Can you imagine having to say that all the time? And has been, let's see. There's, legal language is usually pretty careful. This is a pretty serious case. 3 people are being charged with this warrant. I don't think it's a mistake. You know, they could have fixed this by saying some type of possible language, and or may others as they may be discovered, right? And you can add a John Doe when you file a case, a petition. But here, it just straight out says, along with other uncharged individuals, as if it's there. As if there's already a there. So, I agree, Miranda, there's something. So back to learning about who Adrian Perez is. He's in this long acronym, South Florida Cyber Fraud Task Force, and has been previously assigned to the Miami-Dade County State Attorney's Office Violent Gang/Cyber Strike Force. He has a and they're going over all his accolades and why he's qualified for whatever he's alleging is a statement of fact and true to his knowledge to fill out this affidavit is credible and a good basis to serve this warrant. So they're saying he's an expert in what this statute is. We don't need to read all that. We're going to get to the facts in support of probable cause. Your affiant has assigned as the lead investigator in the cybercrime, documented under Miami-Dade Police Department, case number, and then that's the case number. The investigation was initiated following an investigative referral by the state attorney's office to the Miami-Dade Police Department. So, state attorney's office puts forth the referral to the police department because they are separate bodies, right? You know, the state attorney is not a policing task force. They might do some work to investigate information surrounding certain things that they're trying to try in the court of law, but it's really the police department that does policing work. Certain types of initial investigations to find out if there's cause for arrest. So, but it's interesting that we know for sure now that the state refers this over to the Miami-Dade Police Department. And the reason I say that is in the motion hearing, the state made it very clear that a lot of these things that they're doing now are happening because they're hearing about something the defense attorneys are out here in the public saying in the press. Oh, judge, we have to do new discovery. We have to take these new things. This is happening now because the defense counsel, the respondent, went and said this out in public. They didn't come tell us. We had to find out about it because they were out here talking. So, seems like they heard this from someone and had to get the police on it. So the underlying case. So Christian Obumseli, herein victim, was killed on April 3rd, 2022 because of an apparent stab wound inflicted upon him by Courtney Clenney, herein subject 1. So subject 1 is going to be her, subject 2 and 3 will be the parents. In their City of Miami apartment. Following the victim's killing, many of his belongings were taken from the apartment by unknown persons and have not been provided to his family, heirs, or estate. Now remember, they only had like one key fob. That was part of the contentiousness about that elevator video, is that it's supposed to be, you know, the elevator that goes to their private apartment, and he was holding the only key fob they had, and that was supposed to justify everything that happened in it. So I guess the police don't do anything to obtain, the building doesn't do anything to deal with an eviction to make sure anybody but the Clenney family has access to this apartment after Obumseli is killed. So there's all these belongings sitting in there, and then that's how the family comes across this laptop and other things. So a search, they verify that subject 1 has been in the Miami-Dade Corrections and Rehabilitation custody since August 26, 2022, under Miami-Dade jail number, and then they list her jail number. While subject 1's case was proceeding, the City of Miami made several attempts to access subject 1's cellular phone with no success. The device was locked with a 5-digit passcode. To get Subject 1's cellular phone contents by other means, the City of Miami sought and received 2 warrants, hereinafter iCloud Warrant 1 and iCloud Warrant 2 for Subject 1's iCloud account. So it looks like Courtney Clenney 496 at me.com. The City of Miami additionally sought the iCloud accounts of Kim Clenney. So Kim, the dad, is going to be Subject 2, and Deborah is going to be Subject 3. Courtney's 1, Dad is 2, Mom is 3. Because of messages exchanged with Subject 1, known photographs taken of Subject 1 by Subject 3, so Mom takes photos of Courtney, and commingling of financial accounts by Subject 2. Yeah, because by April 11th, more than $1 million had been moved from 3 different accounts that Courtney Clenney had to Kim Clenney, Dad's Bank of America accounts. Or I think she had Bank of America. Yeah, just pennies and nickels and dimes. Your affiant knows that an iCloud is a cloud-based storage and syncing system linked to Apple devices. So basically, we can't get into the Apple phone, but we can go and look at the iCloud and see what's been synced that would have come from the iPhone. By linking individual Apple devices to a particular iCloud account, certain contents of those devices can be automatically synchronized to from the iCloud account and multiple Apple devices. Such content includes documents, photos, notes, and contacts. iCloud can also be used to locate lost or missing Apple devices and to remotely destroy data on such Apple devices. iCloud also allows the owner or user of a particular iCloud account to manage synchronized email, contacts, calendars, notes, reminders, photos, cloud storage, word processing documents, blah, 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 spreadsheets, standard web browser. Changes made to the above described resources in an iCloud can then be automatically pushed to the owner or user's linked Apple devices. iCloud Warrant 1, so Courtney's, was signed by the Honorable Judge Carmen Cabarga on February 2nd, 2023. iCloud Warrant 1 was served on Apple Inc., which complied by providing multiple voluminous download links on March 1st, 2023. So Apple's complying. Sometimes Apple puts their feet down and they don't really respond to certain subpoenas. But, maybe that policy has shifted in recent years. But in this case, they're like, here you go. Downloads of the iCloud data were made, but not reviewed. Although there does seem to be a time gap. So let's see. Well, I guess it doesn't say when it was served. So it was signed on February 2nd, and within a month, they respond. Downloads of the iCloud data were made, but not reviewed, due to the technical expertise required to review the material, the volume of data, and the establishment of a filter protocol to prevent inadvertently locating attorney-client communications. So we heard a little bit about that at the motion hearing. The most significant detail is that the defense is freaking out about it because they're scared that somehow that's going to end up in the media. And even though attorney-client privilege only applies to their communications as it relates to Courtney Clenney, since they were not representing Kim and Deborah, there's also an additional concern that since the parents are now charged with the crime and are currently unrepresented, they need to get some counsel before certain decisions are made about communications involving them. So a little bit of issue there, but the judge seems to be really proactive about making sure attorney-client privilege does not become an appealable issue in this case. I thought she did a great job during the hearing. And yeah, hold on. So let's pin that. So Miranda's like, lawyers should take the advice they always give their clients. Stay silent. But instead, right after a gag hearing, instead we had a bunch of interviews. And then, hey, JT Moore. So CI, criminal informant that doesn't have a finalized deal yet, so they can still be considered a party to the crime if the deal they have made winds up falling through. Hold on, am I missing? So do you think maybe that language at the beginning of the warrant, is that specifically what you're mentioning here, JT? The and other persons who may be connected with this, but not yet charged. I wonder if that's what you mean. Let me know. And then I was on this one. Okay. So to address these issues, talking about, setting up a filter to make sure we don't locate, we don't interfere or expose attorney-client privilege information. To address these issues, the state attorney's office learned that a Miami-Dade Police Department digital forensic expert, Sergeant Sergio Cremacini, could download and process the data, filter out communications that needed excising, and provide a simplified reader for investigators to digest the data. To achieve this, however, Sergeant Cremacini would require a new download link, as the original return links had already expired. Consequently, City of Miami investigators applied for and received iCloud Warrant 2 from the Honorable Judge Andrea Wolfson on November 3rd, 2023. So this kind of explains, it seems like they knew, maybe they wanted to investigate anyway, but that is quite a time gap where they initially apply for this warrant on February 2nd. They get access on March 1st, but they have to reapply because the download link no longer works on March 3rd. So the second warrant was served on Apple, which complied by providing within less than 2 weeks another download link. The download links were provided to Sergeant Cremasini along with the original preserved downloads from iCloud Warrant 1, at which time he processed the records into a digestible reader format. Regarding Subject 3's message, so that's Mom, the updated records of iCloud Warrant 2 suggested that strings of text messages were missing or had been deleted. As a result of this inference, Subject 3's messages from iCloud Warrant 1 were compiled for comparison. All filtered records were provided to the State Attorney's Office in December of 2023. So it seems like the State Attorney's Office may have had some stuff before December 2023, but they may not have known some of the missing messages, or that messages had been deleted. They may have been aware of the messages if they were present during Warrant 1, but they may not have been aware that someone went and tried to delete certain things in the iCloud until December 2023, which would have been after the bulk of all those bond hearings. Cybercrime investigation, and which in those bond hearings, the lead detective in the case was like discussing some of the text messages he saw between Clenney and the mom. So that's why that's important. An initial review of Subject 3's messages prompted an investigative referral on December 18th, 2023. From the State Attorney's Office to your affiant regarding the willful and knowing unlawful access of a computer, following the referral, your affiant received a copy of the primary evidence, including Subject 1's arrest warrant, iCloud Warrant 2, the victim's cellular phone extraction, Subject 1's cellular phone extraction. So they're getting Christian's, they're getting Clenney's, and then are we going to get more? So Subject 1's iCloud revealed a possible password that unlocked Subject 1's cellular phone and allowed its extraction. Okay. And Subject 3's iCloud warrant returns. Contained within Subject 3's iCloud warrant returns were backed up messages from her phone. Of pertinence here was a group chat, so this is where they're coming from. So from Mom's phone, there's a group chat that included herself, the dad, Subject 2, Frank Andrew Prieto, hereinafter Individual 1, Sabrina Puglisi, hereinafter Individual 2, Manuel Recio, Individual 3, and Pamela Corvalin, Individual 4. I think those are all four attorneys with the same firm. So individuals 1 through 4 represent Subject 1. Okay, there we go. I should have read further. Represent Courtney Clenney in her underlying case. Subjects 2 and 3 are not clients of individuals 1, 2, 3, or 4, as defined by Section 9502. Subjects 2 and 3, as listed witnesses in Subject 1's underlying case, were subject to legal process and therefore could not be represented by individuals 1, 2, 3, or 4. Accordingly, and this is why they're laying all that out, there is no attorney-client privilege contained within the messages. Additionally, because the conversations were sought or obtained to enable or aid the commission of a crime, there is no attorney-client privilege to the conversations. Contained within, and the crime is accessing unauthorized access or excessive access of this laptop computer. So they're saying there's 2 reasons there's no attorney-client privilege. Contained within the group chat between both iCloud warrant returns were 4,230 messages. For unknown reasons, Subject 3's iCloud Warrant 2 messages began on May 17th, 2023, while the last message in iCloud Warrant 1 was January 19th, 2023. Therefore, leaving a period of approximately 4 months of messages unaccounted for. Included within the group chat were various discussions about the victim's laptop and how to access it. The first note reference to the victim's laptop was made by Subject 2, so Dad, on September 23rd, 2022 at approximately 8:45 p.m. Apparently, in response to an earlier conversation about Subject 1 and discussions with her, Subject 2 wrote, Forgot ask if she, these people type like they're crazy. You would never think that they were lawyers. Forgot ask if she gave any potential passwords for the laptop. all typographical errors in original reference. So that's how they're typing. Reference times are in the Eastern time zone and were confirmed through known messages sent by subject 2 to subject 1 in the underlying case. Individual 1 replied on the same date at approximately 9:13. Yes, Sabrina and I have, so that's Frank Pietro. So Frank says on September 23rd at 9:13, yes, Sabrina and I have a list. We will provide. Subject 2 replied immediately. Remember, subject 2 is the dad. Thanks. Several days passed with no conversation when subject 2 messages the group chat on September 26, 2022. So this is dad messaging again at approximately 4:25 p.m. Will you be sending the laptop pin ideas so we can try them before you see her again? In an apparent reference to accessing the victim's laptop using guest passwords. Individual 1, so Frank, replied on the same date at approximately 6:33 p.m. Good evening, guys. I have a couple that I can forward to you tomorrow. Subject 2 immediately replied, okay, thanks. Several days passed with discussions about other matters when subject 2 again raises the issue of passwords within the group. On September 29th, 2022, at approximately 6:58 p.m., subject 2, so that's dad, are there any pin/passwords we can try before you see her tomorrow? And then Sabrina replies at approximately 7:03, she didn't have anything for me. Subject 2 replied at approximately 7:10 p.m. Last Friday evening, Frank indicated that there was a list. You may want to ask her again tomorrow. Individual 2, so that's Sabrina again, replied 38 minutes later, I'll ask her tomorrow. Subject 2, so that's dad, replied at approximately 8:04 p.m. Thanks. Individual 1, apparently in response to subject 2's multiple inquiries for passwords, then began sending several back-to-back messages to the group chat at approximately 8:23 p.m. Individual 1, that's Frank, sent 6 messages with possible passwords, and then, at 8:24 p.m. wrote, these were possible, was not sure about capitalization or spacing, but there are the ones she could come up with. Individual 1 then sent a second message immediately afterwards saying, I would try all together and mix some of the capitalization and see if we get lucky. Subject 2 replied 11 minutes later saying, okay, thanks. And then 23 minutes later, subject 2, so dad, now I know that the PIN is actually just a 4-digit number. Letters are not able to be entered, only numbers. Sabrina, please ask her for options. The following day, completely out of context for the messages, subject 2 wrote, hell yeah, that PIN worked. So they don't say that someone sent more PINs. So where's this message coming from that he had a new PIN to try? And why does he respond here? Anyway, the hell yeah, that PIN worked. So individual 4, which is one of the attorneys, loved the message about 3 minutes later. Individual 1 replied to subject 2's message at approximately 4:02 writing, Kim, so the dad, hold off on going through the computer, please. I don't want to turn you into a witness just yet if you find something useful. Individual 1 furthered, but that is great news and makes this easy. Oh, I guess it's supposed to say easier and the R is missing. We thought it was easy and it was spelled wrong. And it's supposed to be a Y, but I think it's easier with the R missing. This guy must type like he yells in court. Just. Subject 2 replied a moment later, writing, okay, understood. A discussion was then had regarding custody of the laptop, whether subject 2 should ship the victim's laptop to individual 1. So they're in Texas with the laptop, the family, and the attorneys are obviously based out of Florida. Individual 1 discussed how shipment might be possible, but he would like to speak with a computer consultant. Individual 1 then added he would be in Dallas the following week and may want to pick up the victim's laptop. In the abundance of caution, just in case. Subject 2 acknowledged and individual 1 furthered, when it comes to potential evidence, we always have to consider chain of custody issues and don't necessarily want to take risk something gets lost in the mail. But hang tight, we will make a decision by Monday. So I guess he added these quotes in his own message because this affidavit, this warrant, is quoting the whole message. There's quotes surrounding this whole thing. So it must have been Frank that put these quotes around lost. Subject 2 again acknowledged. Individual 2 then sent another message, writing, also, as I'm sure you guessed by me prior text, we write like cavemen now, we don't want you accessing files because the state's attorneys could request their own independent analysis of the hard drive and accuse you of creating or modified files. That's why I wanted to put a quick pause on that. Obviously, I know you would not do that, but we want to maintain that credibility, and that's why I'm writing it in this message that maybe they'll see sometime in the future. Subject 2 replied, I had barely opened it and was starting to poke around, but we started a video call so I stopped. Never opened a file, so I didn't see anything. individual one replied, "Sounds good." So Dad's like, "Oh, I like opened it and I started to poke around, but I didn't see anything and I stopped." So whatever. He also said that his daughter wasn't like scary or got into any trouble, and then the state was immediately like, "Weren't the cops just called? Wasn't the sheriff just called to your house because Courtney Clenney was fighting with her sister and your wife?" So let me catch up with the chat before we go to page 7 here. And the first thing I see is Tracker saying, just don't argue with or stab your boyfriend on video for the content. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so JT Moore, we're getting back to that. Thanks for clarifying, because I wasn't sure where that fit time-wise. But JT Moore says that, it could be a criminal informant that doesn't have a finalized deal yet. And if that waivers, they could end up being charged. And that might be why we have this language back at the beginning that says, and let me get it right, because I think it's pretty important. They name the 3 that are charged. So Courtney, Kim, and Deborah together as principals of one another, along with other uncharged individuals. So, Jay, that's a good suggestion, that it could be, someone that's working with them, and if it doesn't pan out, maybe that will become someone who is additionally charged. And then Ghost says, and hey Ghost, by the way, I think the person that recorded the fight could be the other, as in the uncharged person. Do you think so? Because that would mean that the person that recorded... Do you mean the Aspen fight? Like the one how, like, since they're recording from their phone, you can kind of, like, see their, like, knee in the Aspen video a little bit. Let me know which person you mean, because I'm not sure that person really knew Courtney Clenney and Obumseli all that well. They did describe them as a friend, but it seemed like they went on trips to do this photography and content type thing together. So I'm not sure they would be in Texas with this laptop. Let's see. And then Miranda thinks, possibly the lawyers and whoever they had clone the laptop. That might make sense. You know what? That's a good point. So maybe the IT consultant at Frank Prieto's law firm, because they did come out and say that they don't plan to charge him. That was just in news reports. So maybe it was probed after this warrant and they're like, yeah, it's in there, but we're not going to charge him because he was just doing what was requested, or he or she was doing what we requested of them. So that makes sense. That's actually that's where my brain is now going to, most likely explanation. But of course it could be anything, right? And then, yeah, Tracker, don't incriminate or talk about yourself in text. Don't stab somebody. Don't, like, throw knives from across the room. Whatever the case may be, just don't do it. And then they have a list. That's an important point. Courtney didn't know the PIN for the password, hence not a co-owner or user. Completely illegally activity going on here. Yeah, and then when you think, like, when it's just a 4-pin digit, like, I just set one that's convenient. And for my own computer, I set one that if someone else needs to get on my computer that lives with me to do something, it's something that, I don't know if they'll remember because I told them a long time ago, but it's not like anything is super secret, right? I'm not thinking that far ahead. Maybe Christian, since they're supposed to be like crypto, he's a crypto guy, maybe it was a harder password to get to, right? It's not like, hey, anyone can use this laptop if they need to. He might have had a lot of crypto holdings on some wallet there that he might have been smart and had a specific PIN for. So for Clenney to sit there and guess or know, it seems like it wasn't her first thought, whatever it was, unless she never guessed a 4-digit PIN. But hold on, now you've got me thinking, because if I'd ever accessed, it'd be different if the parents were just trying to guess, but they did say that they asked Courtney initially, and Courtney gave some suggestions initially. If you ask me, what were some possible, if I've ever been on that laptop before, I would remember, like, my Windows PC, my Windows laptop is a 4-digit PIN to sign in if you don't want to use the facial recognition thing. So maybe I'm just, like, a quicker thinker than Courtney Clenney, but I would have remembered right away, like, hey, I've been on that laptop before. It's a 4-digit PIN. I don't really remember the number offhand, but I've at least used it one time. I've had access to it before, and I know it's 4 digits. So why did someone else have to figure out it was 4 digits? To me, that seems like she has never been on that laptop and never had permission ever. So that's what you got me thinking. And then Jay says, Clenney's lawyer was trying to play Better Call Saul and is going to have to turn on the parents and throw them under the bus in order to save himself. They threatened me during other conversations. But what was kind of weird is just the body language in the motion hearing from yesterday. Sabrina, the whole time, Frank is like up there on the stand, like he's like yelling and talking and like he's probably spitting. We see the back of his head, but he's just so animated. But the whole time, Sabrina's standing there like looking at Frank like, I'm really here, you're doing a great job, buddy. And it's just like, I don't know. Like, it was just a weird body language. And some of the time the judge was sitting there like, and then Miranda says they had a list implying Courtney didn't know the PIN. Yeah, we read that one. And then Tracker, Your Honor, we didn't tamper with the laptop. I mean, we would have, but there wasn't anything on there. And we didn't like send those messages to the group chat about how, hey, we didn't actually look around. We didn't send those with any foresight or anything. And then let's see, we're almost through the warrant here. So several days pass without discussion about the victim's laptop, blah, 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 blah. Let's see. Did I go back to the right spot? Okay, no, they're going to Dallas. Frank Perito's going to pick it up because he doesn't want to mess up chain of custody. That's the big issue now. And then, okay, sounds great. So they're coordinating this handoff of the laptop. Although, wait, let me make sure I'm in the right spot before I just steamroll through this. So we have the credibility. They're talking about getting it. I'll just start here. I'd also like for you to have the laptop soon so you can see if there's anything of use to us on it. Several more messages about meeting between subjects 2 and 3 and the individuals are exchanged over several days without reference to the laptop. Subject 3 then messages the group chat at approximately, so that's the mom, 12:09 on October 6th. I will be making the drive to Dallas tomorrow to drop off the laptop. So they're talking about this somewhere else, but not in the group chat. So we noticed that earlier when he said, hell yeah, that pin worked. There was no new list of suggestions sent through this group chat that they all have. However, the dad had a new list of pins or passwords must have been sent somewhere else. Here it's the same thing. They make sure to note. Well, several more messages about meetings and are exchanged over several days without reference to the victim's laptop. Then subject 3 then messages the group chat at approximately 12:09 p.m. on October 6th. I'll be making the drive to Dallas tomorrow to drop off the laptop. But you have to know your point of going to Dallas is to meet someone else that you know needs to be there. So you probably wouldn't say this unless you had word somewhere else that Frank Perito was also going to be there on October 6th, right? Maybe I'm overreading this. I am hoping that Morgan will come with me. Is Morgan her other daughter? Does anyone know? Hold on, let me search over here for Morgan Clenney. This looks like it could be, oh my god, no, this is definitely Morgan Clenney. So she's definitely referencing her daughter. Right? This looks like a relative. Oh man. Because I'm on incognito here. But this definitely looks like a Clenney. So let's assume that Deborah is referencing her daughter here, that I'm hoping Morgan will come with me. This is a reference to individual 1's travel to Dallas discussed above. It should also be noted that subjects 2 and 3 reside in Austin, Texas, several hours away from Dallas. Individual 1 replied 2 hours later, okay, sounds great, the earlier the better, hoping to catch an earlier flight back to Miami, but drive safe and see you tomorrow. Look forward to meeting Morgan if she comes with you. There were then several discussions that continued into the next day about their anticipated arrival time. That's kind of weird. I don't know, is that... If you just want your daughter to drive with you for the ride, is that something that you would, say, I'm hoping Morgan without, I don't know. Maybe there's nothing there, but that's kind of weird. I'd be like, Mom, don't drag me into your shit. Leave me home. And let's see. Oh my god, Tracker's guessing passwords over here. So, 2024 word bingo, OnlyFans, crypto, laptop, Florida, Elmo1234. Why Elmo? iPhone. Eliza says 6969. And then Miranda, yep, that's where my mind went too. If she'd been on that laptop, she would remember. It turned out to be Christian's birthday, 0412. Funny thing is, Courtney's birthday is 0421. She should have remembered. Well, we see certain things about people, and I don't expect everyone to know everything about people that they date, but sometimes it's interesting the things that some people will expect their partner to remember of them, and then you turn around and don't remember the same things in the other direction. Relationships. So they're looking forward to meeting, Frank's looking forward to meeting Morgan if she comes with you. There were several other discussions that continued into the next day about their anticipated arrival time. On October 7th, 2022, more messages coordinating the unauthorized transfer of the victim's laptop were exchanged between Subject 3 and Individual 1, Mom and Frank, which included location information, travel time, travel updates, and ETA. Several hours later, October 7th, 2022, at approximately 4:29 p.m., Individual 1 wrote to the group chat, "Hey Deborah, good seeing you today. I forgot to have you sign a property receipt for turning over the laptop. I will get one to you to sign next week. Thank you for brining it. Thanks for brining it to the Dallas area." Subject 3 immediately replied, "Okay, and you're welcome." The messages then do not discuss victim's laptop again for several months. Noting again, there are no records from January 19th, 2023 until May 17th, 2023. So basically, there are no notes, there are no records from this like over 4-month period, right? That's 5 months. But additionally, for the messages that we are able to see, there's no other mention of the laptop. The next time the victim's laptop is discussed is July 8th, 2023. Individual 1 sent a message to the group chat at approximately 6:58 p.m. writing, "Good evening, everyone. Mike Haas, IT expert, now has possession of all the electronics we need him to evaluate, clone, and run searches on. I did not have the password for the suspected Obumseli Aces laptop handy. Does anyone have that readily available? Please send when you can." Mike Haas was later identified as Michael Walter Haas, here in Individual 5, an individual with an information technology company named Pivotal IT Consulting LLC that has a principal address in Miami, Florida. So it sounds like he's subcontracted. So he's not an employee of the firm. He's probably subcontracted. The following morning at approximately 9:49 a.m., Subject 2 replied, "I think the code to the laptop is 0412. So again, bringing up Miranda, that's actually Christian's birthday. It should be noted the victim's birthday is April 12th. Several days later, and then, they don't leave the note here, so that's a really good catch that Clenney's is 421. Several days with unrelated, I wish we could see like if she had them try her birthday as the password. I think the code to the hold on. Subject 2 replied, "I think the code is 0412. It should be noted the victim's birthday is April 12th. Several days with unrelated conversations occurred until the next and last known discussion about the victim's laptop occurred 16 days later on July 25th, 2023 at 12:38 p.m. Subject 2 wrote, "Courtney was asking about the visit schedule this week. Also, do we have any updates on the video and the laptop?" So this is Dad. So Dad's asking like, what's the visit? Courtney's asking me about visit schedule. Also, are there any updates on the video and laptop? Since it has been 7 weeks since the last Zoom meeting, possible we can set up another soon. Your affiant made contact with Kimberly Wald, Esquire, hereafter Attorney Wald, on Friday, January 12th, 2024. Attorney Wald is counsel for the victim's estate. Miss Wald informed your affiant that the victim's estate has never received the victim's property from anyone, including subjects 1, 2, or 3, or individuals 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Attorney Wald further advised the victim's estate has never given permission to anyone, including subjects 1, 2, or 3, or individuals 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, to possess or keep the victim's belongings. Finally, Attorney Wald advised the victim's estate or family has never provided consent or authorization to anyone, including subjects 1, 2, 3, or individuals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to access the victim's laptop. So the detective that's writing up the affidavit used to, apply for this warrant, he goes to the attorney of the estate of Christian Obumseli on January 12th, 2024. So they moved on this pretty quickly then, because we already had the news of this on January 31st. So they get that warrant out, and Texas PD is like, "All right, we got you, Florida. Like, we got you, Miami-Dade." So crimes against users, and then this is where they're going to say this is the statute again. They're reading the statute. Based on the totality of the circumstances from September 23rd, 2022 to at least July 25th, 2023, the subjects collectively, along with individuals 1 and 2 as principals of one another, accessed or caused to be accessed the victim's laptop with knowledge that such access was unauthorized or the manner exceeded authorization because none of the subjects or individuals sought authorization from the victim, who cannot authorize such access because he's deceased, the victim's estate, or the victim's representative. This is evidenced by the clear attempts to evade discussions about the victim's laptop via monitored jail calls. Because remember, if Sabrina's doing these visit schedules, that would be attorney-client privilege while she's sitting down and speaking with Courtney Clenney, something that if the parents are going and visiting her, those would be monitored. If the parents are calling Courtney Clenney, those calls would be monitored and recorded. So when Sabrina is actually making the visit as Courtney Clenney's attorney, that would be the safe time to have these conversations. So they're pointing that out in this writing here. So this is evidenced by the clear attempts to evade discussions about the victim's laptop via monitored jail calls, willfully enlisting individuals 1 and 2 to obtain possible access codes in person from Subject 1 in the Miami-Dade County Jail, and the unlocking of the laptop by Subject 2. Additionally, Subject 3 transported the device from Austin to Dallas, Texas, where Individual 1 took possession of the victim's laptop, ultimately providing it to Individual 5 in the city of Miami for unlawful access. At this juncture, okay, so I think this is going back to everything everyone in the chat has discussed. So at this juncture, there is no evidence Individual 5, that's Michael Haas, knew he could not access the victim's laptop. So at this juncture, that kind of implies, as far as we know right now, we don't think he broke this specific statute, that he had knowledge that such access is unauthorized or would be excessive. Criminal intent is apparent through the messages, such as Subject 2's rush to get the victim's laptop to Individual 1 so he could see if there's anything of use to us on it. Subject 2's constant inquiring of the victim's laptop when he first accessed it on October 2022. Subject 3's hand delivery of the victim's laptop to Individual 1. Individual 1's delivery of the laptop to Individual 5. So it's interesting that one of these steps here doesn't involve any subjects, but it's meant to establish that criminal intent is apparent. And one of the steps is just Individual 1's delivery, not a Clenney, but Frank Prieto. So each of these list items here, line items, is supposed to substantiate this statement here. Criminal intent is apparent through the following. And then Individual 1's delivery of the laptop to Individual 5. So if you ask me, it seems like we could tie an allegation of criminal intent in this warrant at least to Individual 1, Frank Prieto, at least as it pertains to the delivery of the laptop to Michael Haas, the IT guy. So that's some interesting legal grammar right there. What do you guys think about that? Furthermore, knowledge of ownership of the laptop can be inferred by mention of Individual 1 on the group thread, referring to the devices as the suspected Obumseli Asus laptop. Great, so they kept referring it to as the suspected Obumseli Asus laptop. Well, who else would it be if Courtney says it's not hers and doesn't know how to access? So, conclusion. Accordingly, based on the totality of the circumstances, your affiant has probable cause to arrest Courtney Taylor Clenney, Subject 1, Kim Dwayne Clenney, and Deborah Lynn Clenney, who together as principals of one another, along with other uncharged individuals, did commit 1 count of unauthorized access or excessive access to a computer system, or electronic device of Christian Obumseli and or his estate, which is a 3rd-degree felony in violation of Florida Statute 81506, Section 2, Section A, contrary to the form of the statute, in such cases made and provided, and against the peace and dignity of Florida. So, Mindy Glazer signed off on this on the 26th day. Okay. So on the 26th day of January, it's signed and dated down here. We have a statement from the courts here, 129. So it looks like Texas went right out there and said, hey there, hey, how y'all doing? What you doing today? You want to come down and talk to us? So let's see what you guys are saying over here. So Tracker's saying, so did they steal it from the Miami apartment, take it to Texas, and then drive it back to Miami? At the very least, they just drove it to Dallas to hand it off to Frank Perito, who was seemingly in Dallas or the Dallas area for another trip of some sort. But as far as stealing it from the Miami apartment, on one hand, okay, well, let's step back, because Courtney Clenney herself wasn't actually arrested until August 10th. Right? And she's arrested in Hawaii and she has to be flown over. She waives extradition. She comes back over to South Florida. But she was just like out and free for several months, out and free and talking to some random 18-year-old begging him to kiss her and walk her home and then getting in a fight with him when he doesn't. We're going to see that next. So she's free. So I guess it's technically possible that she may have just taken it with her. There's a mention that the dad went and got some of the belongings from the property at some point. But again, we only know, what was the date? September 23rd or something? Let's see. Because whatever it was, it seems like the laptop became a subject of these group messages. Let me just see what date it was in September. Oh no, these aren't searchable. Was there a find in page option here? No, that's what I just used. November. Okay, wait. The first noted reference. Okay, so September 23rd. So September 23rd, 2022 is the first noted reference to the victim's laptop. So we don't really get a mention of any type of context within what they're telling us here in this warrant, but we do know that the first mention in these group chats is September 23rd. Courtney's already been held for about a month now. But it's possible, Courtney at some point, or if her parents were helping her clean out that penthouse apartment, she could have brought it over there with her. Remember, she had bought a house in Austin, Texas, not too long after the killing, so she could be closer to her family. We might get some more reasoning for that when we look at the articles surrounding this video that Miranda sent over. But it's possible that somehow someone grabbed a whole bunch of... benefit of the doubt. This is just best case scenario. Someone helped her move, or you just grab everything, you get it packed up, and you go. The flip side of that could be, hey, I know this isn't my laptop, and the police didn't collect it, and I know I shouldn't have it, but I'm going to willfully take it. Whether that means me as Courtney Clenney, whether that means Dad, who may have asked Clenney, hey, what is this? Oh, that's Toby's laptop. Well, that's Christian Obumseli's laptop. I think any person in this chat, if you were in that situation, you'd kind of be like, if I decide to take this with me, I know it could be a bad look. I don't see how common sense wouldn't tell you that. And then let's see. So that's why I don't know if you can say like, hey, we're going to steal this, or if it somehow just ended up in Austin because maybe she hired a moving service and the police didn't collect it as evidence. At the end of the day, it doesn't seem like the police did a great job combing through this apartment and investigating. They were just like, oh, we believe that Courtney didn't, and she wants a hug, we're going to hug her. But who knows? And in any case, however the laptop got to Texas, they knew better, trying to get in there. Then Elmo had Twitter in a spin a couple of... Wait, do you mean... Okay, when you say Elmo, do you mean Elon? Wait, is Elmo another name for Elon? I feel like it's like right here. And I'm missing the inside joke. And it's the same numbers last two reversed. Are her parents a total Kim and Karen? I know it trips me up that his name is Kim, because I always want to say that that's her name. That they thought they could just steal a laptop and get away with it, or at least get away with it until Scooby-Doo caught up. And yeah, they probably really believed it because they're just out here like willy-nilly talking about it in messages. And then, hey Pam, if you get out of work and want to jump in, let me know. I will send you a link. And then Tracker says, I swear this sounds like a bad Fox legal series. Well, they don't even need to make a series because they have episodes and episodes of these attorneys doing interviews. Yeah, I don't want to be on your mailing list to catch more of these interviews. And we're going to get to this next, this weird, bizarre video story after we wrap up the comments on the warrants. And again, if you just tuned in, there are 2 text documents in the description. There's a set of the 2 of them from Scribd, and there's a set that was uploaded to Google. So if you prefer, what I'm looking at now is a Google Reader. I think it's a little bit easier to read than Scribd, but you can make your own choice. If you have a Scribd membership, you can go and download it from the Scribd link, and it'll just be on your computer. But this, you can use the Google and download it here. It just loads better. It's a better viewpoint to share on a live. But all 4 links are in there for you to pick your poison. And then, okay, so Miranda says, that's why individual 1, Frank Prieto, was so unnerved during the hearing yesterday. You know, I forget, but honestly, I still feel like that was his body language back at the bond hearing a little bit. Especially, I remember them being up near that because they had to go to the one side of the courtroom with the smart board. It was like a smart board system, and they're trying to like read the text messages. And I remember his body language. He's up by that smart board, talking in the other direction, but you can hear him. You can't hear the other guy next to him when he speaks because they're both facing away from the cameras and the microphones. But he's like, and it's missing text messages. So I think he might always be like that. But Sabrina seemed amped up for sure when she had to ask, are our calls being recorded, mine and Frank's? Are you guys making sure that, you know, our communications, our whole trial strategy could be in those messages? Can you give us an answer on that today, Judge? And it's kind of like, you know, you kind of had some months to consider all this, where you just sat on this group chat, had this laptop. You had months to consider all these things, but all right. And then let's see. Ignorance of the law is not an excuse in a court of law. Exactly. They let the murderer and her dad take stuff from the victim's apartment because she wasn't arrested right after they found the body. Yeah, so tracker, that's like, you know, there's like a, you know, from April 3rd till August 10th. And I think, what did they apply for the warrant for her? Like April 6th or something, or August 6th or something. But they had done some investigative work and they decided they weren't going to charge her at first. And the estate, the family, social media really too, raised hell about it. And then finally the state was like, all right, I guess we're going to look into this a little bit more. And the state tried to, I agree with the way they charge this because I think they'll win their case with a 2nd-degree murder charge, with a weapon. It's a 16-year minimum sentence in Florida. She could serve up to life without parole. So no death penalty, but it's also 16 minimum is not like piece of cake. Some minimum sentencing could be like really generous, like a year, 2 years, 18 months. So at minimum, if she's convicted, the minimum sentencing is going to be over a decade. And then up to life without parole. Now, they still waited to charge her, and then the prosecution's like, well, we waited so long because we just wanted to make sure we charged her correctly. And I do think they charged her correctly, but I also think they were trying to reframe and clean up the fact that they initially just flat out chose to believe it was a self-defense killing, and it was justified, and no charges were needed. So, because they didn't really do a good job of looking any further than what they arrived on scene and believed Courtney Clenney told them while she was crying and asking for hugs in interrogation. So, that's why we have this whole mess where, yes, they let the murderer and her dad take stuff from the victim's apartment because she wasn't arrested right after they found the body. Yep. And then the apartment was in her name. Unfortunately, that meant Christian's family couldn't get access to clear out his things either. Yep. But that's why I keep saying, you know, it's really, I'm glad the police did some investigation. You know, they ended up finding things like weird stuff with Deborah Clenney. They found some things that are interesting details, right? But right from the very beginning, they could have had way more evidence from this apartment. And they just never went to go and look at anything. We have a few pictures of the crime scene, essentially. And then her bloody clothing. And then seriously, she wasn't arrested on the scene. Yeah. You need to do some homework before the next class begins. It's crazy. And then absolutely, I don't really care how long it took anybody to figure it out. The intent to protect their daughter is clear. And that's another thing. It's like, you hear these stories a lot where parents just want to go to arm's length to protect their child. And then when you add in the element, and this isn't just a baseless claim, right? These parents seem motivated by money because the dad very quickly, he's a financial advisor. If you're a financial advisor that's worth any money at all, you would know better than advising someone to wire money from 3 different bank accounts within 8 days of them killing somebody in an apartment she owned. So to me, logic says he knew that wasn't a good look. How are you a financial advisor for 15 years and you still think it's all right, just willy-nilly, just wire me money from your 3 different bank accounts, over $1 million. It'll be fine. It just seems like they were so not just worried about protecting their daughter, but protecting the lifestyle that their daughter brought with her, with the income she had newly come across over the last 18 months, 2 years that she started making money on OnlyFans. So it's like the desire to protect your child is one thing, but then also the desire to maintain the money, the finances that happen to be brought in by your child. That adds a whole nother cringe layer to it. Wait, what? So Elmo sent out a tweet about a wellness check, and then there's a huge... Oh, okay, wait, I think I was reading it wrong then. So now let me restart your response. So Drea, you're saying Elmo Sesame Street sent out a tweet with a wellness check. So was it just a, hey guys, here we're just checking in for a wellness check, and people in the replies were sharing real candid, here's how I'm doing right now? And it's just basically a Reddit thread, but on Twitter. I don't know, it sounds kind of nice and cathartic for some people. I'm sure there's some trolls in there too, though, but... And then, there's always people, you comment something, they're gonna, be nasty to you in reply. So I can see how that would turn into a chaotic mess on X of all platforms. Oh, yeah, let's talk about that. So Tracker says, and holy shit, they arrested Jonathan Majors on the spot for nothing. So he calls the police because this girl is passed out, or as he believes, she is passed out. He's like, what do I do? He calls medics. I believe there's an attempted unaliving. What should I do to help? Are they going to be here soon? Then he gets taken away in handcuffs. But then Courtney Clenney is just sitting there crying, covered in blood, and there's a knife sticking out this dude's chest. And all she gets is a hug from the officers who are questioning her. The parallel is crazy. She kills a man, gets away with it for nearly 4 months. Yeah, and she does weird shit in between, which we're going to get into right now. And then someone please beg Jose Baez not to take this case. Wait, which attorney is that? I know that name. Who did he represent? Casey Anthony. Oh no, another Florida. Aaron Hernandez, Harvey Weinstein. Well, that is it makes sense. I knew the name. That would be something. I mean, it seems like they're not trying to get rid of this defense counsel here, though. Yeah, Brian Laundrie's parents tried to protect him. And, I do want to say, psychologically, I don't have kids, right? So I should explain the who's who. I'm saying this is someone that doesn't have kids, but I feel like I can kind of understand, just a reaction out of passion to do something for your children that might make you do something criminal and oops, you realize it after. Maybe you're not thinking of it in the moment. Or maybe, there's also the option that you're accepting the consequences because you think the result is just, and you're protecting the livelihood of your offspring, right? But at the same time, at some point, you got to do a reality check. This isn't just you hear those stories of someone's child is abused by somebody and then they just do that in the moment killing. They go and kill the person that abused their child. And then the government will be like, well, the state will be like, we don't want to bring charges against you. We get it, dude. We get it. It's not the same as for months you sit and plot and possibly conspire to get into this laptop so you can go and destroy evidence. It's conspired and premeditated over time at that point. There's no just heat of the moment reaction excuse. So I do see to some extent, sometimes sometimes parents of people that, or the Crumbly case, was that the Buffalo shooting? The the parents, I think it was a school shooting, the Crumbleys. Their trial's like right now, and I haven't been following it. But it's the same thing, like, you know, there's a lot of talk about they're demonizing the parents, but then also, like, they did what parents are capable of doing. They're only human. So there's like a big parental philosophical type debate surrounding that case. I think it's something Crumbly. And then Dylan Roof murder. Yeah, that's the one they got him they got him Burger King. So Tracker says Dylan Roof murdered 9 black church parishioners, their historic church, and got taken to Burger King before they took him to jail. She murders the guy and flees the state. Okay, so I do want to say one difference is maybe they were just trying to butter him up to talk because they like charged him, right? They at least charged him. But Courtney, they're just like, oh, it was great talking to you. You can go on and get out of here, enjoy your life. So, like, yeah, they got him Burger King. Maybe they want him to feel comfortable talking to them. It's like in sales, it's like the pen test or the water bottle test. If you're at an appointment with someone you're trying to sell on something, you offer them a water bottle or you offer them a pen. And the idea is if they take it, it's supposed to make them trust you more for the rest of the sales conversation. So maybe that's what the Burger King thing was. Not a great optic. But in any case, they arrest him and charge him and hold him. Courtney, they're like, oh, you're a blonde girl. You can just get up on out of here. It's fine. And then Jose was Tory Lanez. Oh, okay, so he was no way. Oh my god. That man's record. So he's got Tory Lanez, Harvey Weinstein, Casey Anthony, Aaron Hernandez. Jesus. Erica! Okay, so shout out to Erica. That's so funny. I can't lie. If you did it, Jose Baez is your guy. Imagine he has a giant billboard. Okay, so if I'm driving through Florida and I see a giant Jose Baez billboard and that's his motto. Can't lie. If you did it, he's your guy. That'd be so funny. And then Miranda says, Christian was stabbed in the shoulder. The pictures with the stitches below above the tattoo of Courtney's name was for medical intervention. The autopsy, EMT, and ER. So I always get confused, like, I wonder if was it the subaortal? I don't know my anatomy. So I just, like, try to remember what I heard them say when they were talking in the press conference. But I always think it's crazy. Isn't that ironic? You have this text message from him, like, is love going to kill me? And then you have, like, the kill shot, right? And it has Courtney's name in the picture. Like, what do they call it? Macabre? When something's like, or like morbidly beautiful. Like, I don't want to call it poetic, but the kill wound, and then her name is right there in front of you. And at the same time, these detectives are like, just get on out of here. You didn't kill him. It's fine. Court TV made the correction on a live broadcast. Nothing written, though. Yeah, I know Court TV is kind of sparse with their writing. They want to rock off the videos. And then always 3 types of justice, one for the rich, one for the colonizers and their ancestors, and one for others. Well, others can be a mixed bag, I guess. And then, did she cut his brachial artery? I love your light. It feels very Edward Murrow. You know, I change it around sometimes. I don't know. I used to really have a area I like to work in and do my recordings. But they've been building, it's been taking forever. It's been like over a year. They're building a bunch of like 3-story condominium buildings right next door, right across the street. And they're so loud. And they're working on one building at a time. And then they're they're jackhammering the foundation from the next building. They didn't like, for months straight, jackhammer out the foundations. It's just been a constant stretch of like jackhammering. So I had to move away because it was more closer to an exterior wall. So I had to move away and like set up, like where my tower PC is, things I don't want to move every day. And it's like so dark, there's no windows really here. I have like a thin window here in my bedroom. It doesn't let any light in. So I'm like, all right, well, we got to get like 5 lights in here. So I can change it all the time. There's like literally 4 different lights. I'll take a picture of it one day. But I'll get some like different colors. We'll spice it up. An old-timey newscaster. And then let's see, we don't need these anymore. We're going to get to this fun, wonderful story. It started to play, and I'm just like, oh my god, I just gotta wait to react to it live. So Miranda sends this over. She's like, this is like this kissing story. So reports detail Miami only. Oh wait, let me switch. They're not going to show me the video because it's incognito. So let me load it on a different tab and swap on over. Okay, let me pause it. Where are you, StreamYard? Oh god, I have like 30 tabs open. All right, so now we should be able to see the video. They're so slick, making sure you can't watch their video unless you let them show you ads. Let me see, do we have volume up here? I know it had volume a minute ago. I'm not hearing the audio, so it's not you guys. It's me, and I just heard it when I first clicked it until I had to load it in this window. Are you guys hearing this audio on your end, and I'm just not hearing it? Because it's not even giving me like the little volume thing within the video to toggle volume on and off. Weird. Yeah, let's just do this. Let's go over to a new browser entirely instead of, I had pulled a tab out of that. Maybe that messed it up. Oh, you know what? Maybe it's because I have it open in 2 windows. Let me try. Yeah, they have some sophisticated. Okay, so I closed the incognito tab that I had that window open in, even though the that's crazy. They have some sophisticated embed there to prevent anyone from having it open in multiple windows. Now I see a volume toggle. All right, so can you guys hear this now? I'm gonna wait. Can you guys hear it? That little bit? Before I play it and then sit here looking stupid because you guys are like, we can't hear it. Okay, so that's the dad, and he's already this little quick snippet. Just confirm that you guys can hear it. If you still can't hear it, let me know. Okay, so you still can't hear it. I wonder why. Let me switch this. Oh, I wish it would give me an easy way to download it. There's a big button here on StreamYard that's like having audio issues. I'm like, yeah. Let's try. Okay, switching my speakers here. How about now? So let me know, because I'm wondering if it's just because of the way I have my headphones set. Let me know if you just heard what we just played. I have a 10, you guys have a 10-second delay from me playing it live, so. That's so annoying. I wonder why it does that. I mean, I'm assuming it's me having the tech issue. So yeah, I guess that's basically true. So we have the dad here on interview. And we can just read the article and the video if you want to watch it. It's really the reporters talking about it, but we'll read it then. That's a good point, Tracker. So 2 months after she allegedly stabbed her boyfriend to death in their luxury Miami condo, and just weeks before her arrest in the killing, OnlyFans model Courtney Clenney was involved in a bizarre drunken encounter in her parents' neighborhood in Texas, according to newly discovered police reports. So they go into Clenney's backstory here. She wasn't arrested till August. But according to new police reports, in between the death of Obumseli and the trip to Hawaii, it appears Clenney went to Texas to stay with her parents. On June 16th, 2022, deputies with the Travis County Sheriff's Department in the Austin area responded to an incident involving Clenney. An 18-year-old says he was walking in a neighborhood when he was approached by a woman who was walking her dogs and who told him she was drunk. She approached him. What my son said, visibly intoxicated, Jovan, the 18-year-old's father, so that's who we just saw blurred out in the video, told NBC6. And she's like, "Hey, what's your name?" No, this lady. The woman, Clenney, who the teen didn't know, requested that he walk her home. And after he agreed, he said she started making sexual advances towards him, the report reads. So they sat there and she's like, "Kiss me." And he's like, "No," Jovan said. "If you don't kiss me, I'm going to burn the house. I'm going to burn that shit down." That's what she said. "I'm going to burn that shit down." What? The teen wasn't interested. Okay, so I thought it was weird. I thought it was just going to be like, she's like begging some teen to kiss her. But what? The teen wasn't interested and texted his father because he felt uncomfortable. And the father came outside and encountered Clenney, who became angry and started cursing, the report said. At one point, Clenney shoved the father, who shoved her back and called police, the report said. And then she freaked out, Jovan said. "She approached me and she started slapping me because I was standing between her and my son." So she's like freaking out and she's in a physical altercation now with the father. The father told authorities an intoxicated female came up to his son and is stumbling everywhere, the report said. A deputy arrived and spoke with Clenney's mom, Deborah Clenney, who said her daughter wasn't supposed to be drinking and apologized for her behavior, the report said. The mother said Clenney had left to walk her dogs, and when it got dark and she didn't return, she and Clenney's father, Kim Clenney, started driving the neighborhood looking for her and found her walking with a male, the report said. So hold on, if your statement is that you found her walking with a male, did you leave and let the rest of that transpire? Because by their statement, you would assume the parents were then present from... So you either pull up and see your daughter. This statement doesn't make sense. The parents seem like they're leaving out some type of detail or trying to make it seem less than what it was. Because you either left your daughter, who was visibly intoxicated, walking with a random male, and you just kept driving. You didn't stop and say anything. Or you didn't show up at this point. You showed up when the father was already outside. But you only say you showed up when she was walking with a male. So this seems not accurate on the parents' part. When asked if Courtney was intoxicated, Deborah advised she believed she was. Deborah further stated Courtney should not be consuming alcohol as she does not respond well with her. The report said, I mean, I believe that, but that's weird wording. She does not respond well with her? Maybe that's just a typo in there somewhere. Or maybe it means, like, I don't want her drinking alcohol because she doesn't respond well with me. The report said, Deborah then explained that Courtney recently moved back to the area and was staying with them until she moves into her own home next week. Deborah further advised Courtney will be entering outpatient treatment for alcohol starting Monday. So that must be when she left for Hawaii. Because this was like June... What was the date? 16th? So June 16th. Okay. Yeah, June 16th. And then when did she go to Hawaii? Did they tell that in here? But presumably, I guess that would mean a few days from now is when she's heading off to Hawaii for her PTSD and substance abuse treatment. I, Okay, and then another deputy spoke with Clenney, noting in the reports that she had watery eyes and a strong odor of alcohol on her, the report said. Clenney denied shoving anyone during the encounter, according to the reports. Alright, so Courtney says I didn't do it then. But, I don't know, if I believe that this guy's telling the truth up here, this dad, he started shoving me, and then Courtney's like, I didn't shove anyone. Well, how am I going to take her story, her own statements about what happened on April 3rd, 2022, if she says, oh, I didn't do that, I threw the knife from 10 feet away. This is like a very, like, Grace Jabari, I wasn't running, I was following. Courtney adamantly denied shoving anyone and stated that was not in her character. You just killed someone. There's videos, there's multiple videos of you shoving, Christian. Courtney adamantly denied shoving anyone and stated that was not in her character. What? I can't believe she said that. At this point, Courtney became emotional and explained she has been going through a really hard time lately and had recently moved back to her parents. All right, I believe that, but you're saying that for sympathy, not for honesty. The father of the teen decided he didn't want to pursue charges in the incident. Oh, because she was crying. You said, no, I'm not gonna put this girl through it. She looks sad. He later told NBC6 he wasn't aware of Obumseli's murder and that Clenney was accused of it. If I knew what I learned the following day, I would have pressed charges. And I think that's the way a lot of people think, right? They're like, oh, shit. I would have, I promise you, I didn't know. About 2 weeks after the incident on June 29th, 2022, a deputy called the father and son to check on them, and both said they hadn't had any more contact with Clenney. The father told the deputy that neighbors got together and will keep an eye out for each other because of some information that they learned about her. He stated that he would not engage with her if they ran into each other, and I told him that was an excellent idea, the deputy noted in the reports. Great, so the neighborhood's looking out for their own protection. And the deputy's like, that's great. I'll tell you that person is aggressive. That person is inclined to hurt somebody, Javon said of Clenney. Somebody else, especially when she's under the influence. I'm not a judge or jury. I can tell you that person is disturbed. After her arrest in Hawaii, Clenney, now 27, was extradited to Miami-Dade. She remains behind bars while she waits trial. That's crazy. Like, you, like, threaten someone. This is beyond just being drunk. And not that doing this while you're drunk would be excusable. But it's right. Disturbed is kind of the right word. Javon says that person's disturbed. And the idea that you're drunk and being a little belligerent, but then threatening, if you don't kiss me, I'm going to burn your house down. I don't know. Like, maybe the defense could go a different theory of the case here with, like, it's the brain chemistry that was wrong. It wasn't self-defense. It was brain chemistry in that moment. She really thought she didn't know what she was doing. She blacked out, or her perception was genuinely what it was. I don't know. You're really going to threaten to burn someone's house down because they're 18 and you're walking and they don't want to kiss you. So that's crazy. Yeah, so Erica says, ridiculous, alcoholic maniac. She's an aggressive drunk. Oh yeah, and Tracker says, these have a title. It's Florida Woman. Remember when, like, the bath salt story went crazy and it was, like, all based in Florida? And then, yeah, so that's a good point. So Erica says this incident here could have ended horribly. Please don't call the police. She's going to rehab for substance abuse and PTSD from killing her boyfriend. How is starting outpatient rehab in Hawaii on Monday and moving into a house in Texas next week? Mom's statements are nonsensical. Oh, wait, that's a good catch. I mean, I just think, like, you clearly didn't pull. Either you're a bad parent because you pulled up while she was walking with an 18-year-old kid and was visibly intoxicated and just kept driving, and when you're supposed to be watching out for her. Like, or you're lying, and that's not when you pulled up on the situation. You know? And then what you're pointing out here, how is she supposed to go to outpatient? Let's see, where did she say that? Deborah then explained that Courtney recently moved back to the area and was staying with them until she moves into her own home next week. The only thing I could think of is maybe she had outpatient that was supposed to start like virtually or in Texas. But yeah, that's a huge detail catch. That's the only way I could excuse it, is if she tried and failed a program before going to Hawaii. But also, yeah, like you literally say helping her move into her own home, which means anything she currently brought over from the penthouse is probably sitting in the parents' house. And then she's going to be entering outpatient. Yeah, I mean, I don't trust the mom. I flat out don't trust the mom. And then, let's see. They're going to excuse away her actions. She'll get a slap on the wrist for murder, and her name will get added to the huge pile of cases just like this. You know, I hope not. I guess one concern of that could be, you know, some of the evidence that is really damning for her couldn't come in, but she's so, like, the one Aspen video is recorded by someone, so there shouldn't really be an expectation of privacy. I don't know, like, Colorado's recording laws, but the person's willfully recording it, and I don't know. But the other stuff where she's like visibly people 2 floors above her are hearing her and calling the police or calling in a noise complaint. You know, I think the expectation of privacy argument is going to favor the state and get them to introduce a lot of these things that are just going to look bad for her. Things that I don't think the jury, and hopefully the jury, can't just, it's not a big deal. I mean, I don't know. Even just if they see one video with no audio of her hitting him, I think that's compelling. And even though the defense is like, we have one example, one witness that says he was an eyewitness to it, they don't have a video of Christian doing the same thing back. And the visuals are just too, to me, visuals are so powerful. Yeah, and then if she gets off with a slap on her wrist, then she'll sell her exclusive story to the highest bidder. And then, yeah, and it's kind of like, if it's the drugs, I mean, maybe like withdrawal, but if she was like actively still doing drugs while she was back there over in Texas, where was she getting them from? Doesn't that make you wonder? If you move over there, you're willing to talk to anyone on the street. Who else do you know that's there? Besides where the people you're staying with. Yeah, diminished capacity, that's the phrase. You got it, Drea. And I don't know anyone who could fire the trafficker. That drove me nuts too. You're like firing him, but then you're going on about this whole, like, there's now a theory that you were a trafficking victim. Unless the theory is not that it was Christian that trafficked her, but that she was trafficked by somebody or trafficked in the past, and that person wasn't Christian Obumseli. But if that's who she's supposed to say is trafficking her or was trafficking her, how do you fire him? Yeah, honestly, that's fair, tracker. So there was a video of Jonathan Majors running away and body cam without audio, and look what happened. Yeah, man, screw that jury. But I think this is going to be 12 jurors, so maybe the bigger sample size will help a little bit. And then it's Florida. People get off in Florida. Yeah, the George Zimmerman and Casey Anthony. Yeah, it is Florida. And I like to think that, like, at least Miami's kind of like its own municipality. And then let me switch back to... Let me share, let's look at this Court TV interview. And I have it forwarded a little bit. I'm going to try to chop it up. I don't know if Court TV is like the type of person that will like try to strike and get this video like taken down, but I'll just like pause it and read a comment or something every once in a while. And they let me play in incognito mode. Can you guys hear this? Thanks, you guys can't hear that. I wonder what it is then. I must have my something set wrong in StreamYard. And I don't know how to fix it, to be completely honest. Because I thought if I'm sharing my screen, it'll just carry the audio through. Let me see. It's toggled. You know what, actually? It's telling me to share a tab instead of a window. I see how to... Now I feel stupid. Now I see it. It's only if you share a tab and not a window. So let me double check that I shared it as a tab. All right. So let's try this now. She was just introducing that these are the attorneys.
What the statute is on charge in as far as,
and they're talking about the warrants. Let me know if you can hear this now.
Charge in this case, but the computer crimes charge, this is unique. Sabrina, can you talk about just what this kind of a crime means, what the statute is on what she is accused of, along with her parents?
Yeah, thank you, Julia, for having us. First, the real question in this case is really, is accessing a partner or a spouse's computer who is deceased, that you have possession of, that you have the password for, is that illegal? Because I understand what the civil lawyers are saying.
Hold on. Okay, I get the bubble. The defense has done this in the courtroom with the motion hearing today. They do this like bubble type of response that seems like a valid stance on its face, but they're ignoring the specifics of what they're responding to. So yeah, if you use that laptop all the time, it might not be considered unauthorized access. But what you're missing here is you have someone going back and forth asking you to provide guesses. Lists of guesses about your passwords, which is not the same as what she's saying here and how she's framing the situation here. So she's saying something that's kind of a valid argument in a vacuum. Sort of. Enough. It could be. But it certainly doesn't apply to the specifics of what's laid out as the factual allegations in this warrant where they're exchanging these group texts trying to figure it out. Let's hear it again.
That you have the password for. Is that illegal? Because I understand what the civil lawyers are.
It looks like she's trying not to crack a smile right there, too. I'm not even trying to be a body language expert, but watch her face right there in that moment. Like, what?
Yeah, thank you, Julia, for having us.
Okay, she's kind of smiling here, too, though, but...
The real question in this case is really, is accessing a partner or a spouse's computer...
Hold on, she paid to be named a super lawyer. That's that, like, meaningless title that you pay for, right? Maybe Court TV's trolling by even letting her put that up as a bullet point. They're like, all right, we'll put that up there for you.
Who is deceased, that you have possession of, that you have the password for.
She looks like she's smiling here. Like she knows she's saying it through her teeth.
Is that illegal? Because I understand what the civil lawyers are saying, but the state is not charging tampering with any kind of computer. They're charging a very obscure Florida statute that if you look at...
Tampering is a much more egregious charge to be bringing forward. I would not be doing this interview and bragging when I just got the grace of the prosecutor for just naming me as an individual rather than a subject, even on this minor, obscure statute. I would not be on here bragging about how they're not charging tampering of charges when during the motion hearing, when the state said, hey, we think there was misreporting from TMZ saying there's like tampering charges, tampering with evidence, and we didn't say that anywhere in the arrest warrant, that was misinformation. She was hype. She was like hot and ready, Little Caesars, like, oh, and Judge, we do want to thank the state so much for saying that about there not being any evidence tampering. And she latches onto that and runs right up on here.
On a computer, they're charging a very obscure...
Oh, wait.
I understand what the civil lawyers are saying, but the state is not charging tampering with any kind of computer. They're charging a very obscure...
She was so excited that they said that in court, and she latched onto it. She did the same thing with the last interview I saw from her, where she mentioned, oh, well, the prosecution's able to go and get all this information out there and do these press conferences, but now they want to calendar a hearing. They want to calendar this hearing for us to put a gag order on us. But then we hear at the hearing that for 3 months, the state has said, hey, we're filing this as a matter of record. But we're not going to calendar it because we want to handle this professionally. We're not going to handle this motion, to suppress your ability to speak to the media in regards to you calling Christian Obumseli an animal and alleging he was the victim of SA sexual battery by a family member without solicitation in an interview. We're just a matter of record, but we're not going to calendar this. But now we have to calendar it because you've ignored it and still skirted that line for 3 months. So Sabrina Puglisi went, it was, earlier this week, maybe it was the very end of last week. She goes on and she takes that same phrasing and they calendared a hearing about it. Well, they tried not to calendar one for 3 months. And here she's picking up that same language. She's like, oh, they said no evidence tampering. Can't wait to get on Court TV and say that again to Court TV.
Florida statute that if you look at the legislative intent, you'll see it was never meant for the facts of a case like this. So this is clear-cut prosecutorial overreaching.
Frank, Sabrina just said it's not meant for.
Do you think that was overreach? Because I thought it was very generous that only the Clenneys were named and charged in that warrant. I personally thought that was very generous, not an overreach. And I want to point out that when I first read the statement, I was like, hey, it could be overreach. They're trying to push this gag order forward. And then I was like, oh no, these people are playing. They're out here playing up something like they're being treated misfairly when they know damn well that the state was just trying to say like, hey, don't be saying crazy on an interview for no reason, without any basis. We're not trying to suppress your right to speak. Just don't say something random that you have no basis for. That has nothing to do with the innocence of your client. And then now the whole idea of it's clear-cut prosecutorial misconduct. What? You just had the biggest sigh of relief of your life in the courtroom today when the state was like, no, there's no warrants. We're not tapping your phone. Our only warrants are going to be for the iClouds and the iPhones of the Clenneys. And then she gets right up on here after that moment of relief and is like, this is just crazy. Why would she do this? Why would they do this interview?
This kind of case, what do we typically see in terms of this statute, and what would be the defense that may be presented for a charge like this?
Julia, thanks again for having us. And and I know you had a former colleague of mine, Ms. Pearson, on earlier. So Melba, if you're still there, haven't seen you for a while. Good to see you. So the statute was legislative history, like Sabrina said, talks about basically hacking, computer hacking crimes. For example, somebody goes into a computer to try to get personal identifying information to use later to make false credit cards or something of that nature. Using a computer without authorization to break into a computer system. That's what the law was created for, not what the allegations are in that complaint. And I point out that Mr. Haggard is 100% wrong. I know he's a civil attorney, but the Clenneys and
That's a dig. I know he's a civil attorney. He's 100% wrong. Hold on, because he's saying that the prosecution's trying to say they did certain things, but in the warrant, the prosecution doesn't really, or the affiant, in the warrant language, do you guys remember there any implication of what they got into that laptop to do? To me, that was a very straight, timeline of here's the text messages. We know they accessed it at this point. And we know that they said these text messages relating to, hey, I got in here, but I poked around a little bit and then we got on a video call and I stopped. There wasn't any creative licensing that I remember seeing in that warrant that they're suggesting what was being done within that laptop once they got access. There was no implication from the warrant. But listen to what he's saying here. Let me go back far enough.
Cards or something of that nature, using a computer without authorization to break into a computer system. That's what the law was created for, not what the allegations are in that complaint. And I point out that Mr. Haggard.
Not what the allegations are in that complaint. They don't allege anything in that complaint about what was being done in that laptop once it was open. There's no allegations of the sort in that complaint. Please correct me if I'm tripping and I read through this whole thing on a live stream and I am forgetting already that there was an allegation of what happened within that laptop once Kim Clenney was able to, hell yeah, it worked, and got up in there. Any allegation at all in there that I missed, let me know.
Is 100% wrong. I know he's a civil attorney, but the Clenneys in no way illegally possessed a laptop that the police had an opportunity to impound, did not, and was part of the property that was in the apartment.
I want to highlight something that's in some of these documents that were filed by the prosecution with the allegations, just so we can understand them better now that we have you all here to give us context.
I don't think we're going to understand them better now that they're here to give us context. They're like fan fictioning a little bit here. Whatever.
And it's a text message between the father of Courtney Clenney. It says, from Kim, now I know the PIN is actually a 4-digit number. Letters are not able to be entered, only numbers. Sabrina, I assume that that's referring to you, asking you, please ask for options. The following day, September 30th, 2022, at approximately 3:57 p.m., completely out of context for the messages, subject 2 wrote, hell yeah, that PIN
Hell yeah,
worked.
that PIN worked.
And then you have Kim saying, hold off on going through the computer, please. I don't want to turn you into a witness just yet. If you find something useful, but that is great. It makes this easy. It seems like that's between.
She doesn't know how to read the E's. She's like, I know that's a typo. It makes this easy.
You, Sabrina, and between Kim, is that accurate or is that out of context? Explain what you can about what has been presented by the state.
Well, Julia, at this time, because the case is open, I don't feel comfortable discussing the facts of that here. I'm going to leave that for the courtroom. What I will point out is if you look further in those allegations in the warrant, it does show statements made by Mr. Prieto stating, make sure everything is done correctly. This is going to have to be turned over to the state attorney's office.
This sounds like you're just like, yeah, we had the foresight. That's how I'm hearing that. But why I just laughed and leaned back to my wall? Oh, we'll talk about that in court. We don't want to talk about an open case. Since when?
Office for them to review it. You'll see statements such as that, which hasn't really been highlighted. Additionally, I'll tell you another really disturbing point in this whole case is how those communications were uncovered. Because
can you imagine you're 18 years old and you're just walking around in your neighborhood and this comes up to you drunk and teary-eyed, begging you to kiss them and then threatening to burn down your house if they don't?
What we see is that this is a private chat between attorneys and clients.
No. Watch your plurals. Watch your plurals. You went through a whole hearing today that you are not and the warrant stated to, and you have common sense. You should know who your clients are. None of those 4 attorneys represent Kim or Deborah Clenney. You only had one client named in that entire thing. Like, girl.
And people are not speaking about privilege and how it is completely improper for the state.
How it's completely improper for someone to have someone else's laptop for how many months? From September 2022 until July 2023? And then for the defense counsel to have it even longer than that. Till like now, I think. But what's completely improper, Sabrina?
To have looked into these messages, and we are absolutely going to be looking into all of how that occurred, because there are certain procedures that the prosecution must abide by when they are obtaining any kind of communications that involve lawyers.
That is very interesting to bring out, Sabrina, the attorney-client privilege peg of this. Frank, I want to ask you more about what was going on in...
Sabrina's probably so relieved that the next question's going to Frank. Oh yeah, and you mean Courtney's voice? Courtney's voice is crazy. Like, I try not to judge because I lose my voice in like 3 seconds. I get raspy. But Courtney's is like chalkboard. She's struggling so much for words. Yeah, she definitely has to be relieved the next question is going for Frank. So Miranda says she's struggling so much for words, you know she doesn't believe what she's saying. And Lord, this is about to be a shit show. That's what I'm saying. I wasn't even like that interested in this case because I was like, Florida's pretty transparent. It's going to be televised. People will be able to watch and see it for themselves. But then this whole internal debate, and not internal because it involves the public and the press, but the back and forth between the parties involved, where now we're hearing the states like, we didn't want to restrict their right to go talk to the press, especially since they're talking about things that end up being discovery for us, things that we didn't know about until they went and blabbed about it in an interview with Court TV. Why would we want to restrict their speech if it's helping us? We only really want to restrict it because of this one instance. We want a limit on them being able to go and talk about other unfounded, random, irrelevant allegations of another family member against the deceased. And then they're like, they want to shut us down. It's prosecutorial misconduct. But the whole time she's speaking here, she's pausing between every two words and going, like, her face is like, I don't know.
Courtney's life and her parents' life during those 4 months and what their emotional state was, what you know about that. But I do want to quickly play something.
Did they just say 4 months? I was like half tuned out.
And what their emotional state was, what you know about that. But I do want to do more. It's very interesting to bring out Sabrina, the attorney-client privilege peg of this. Frank, I want to ask you more about what was going on in Courtney's life and her parents' life during those 4 months and what
until their
emotional state was, what you know about that. But I do want to quickly play something from an interview Julie Grant did with Michael Haggard yesterday. He's the attorney that's representing Christian Obumseli's family. Let's take a listen to what he had to say about the Clenneys.
The defense here has played a game of trying to spin this and make Christian out to be this monster and Courtney a victim. And we see what they've been doing post her arrest, post the murder as she fled for 4 months. And now it extends, unfortunately, to the whole family. I mean, it's almost like an organized.
Yeah, so he just points out that it extends to the whole family. And that's kind of the crux of what, at least one of the reasons why the state had a problem with that particular crossing the line, speaking with the media. So the estate attorney here points out that what they're doing, the things that they're going out here to try to make not just Christian a monster, but it's extending to the family.
Crime family that's trying to cover things up. And it's very shameful, and we applaud the prosecutors for following up on this.
Frank, we had to give you an opportunity to address that, to respond to that comment that was made here on Court TV yesterday, but also, again, those 4 months, because this was during a time that she, to my understanding, had not been charged. And if you can clarify if that's incorrect.
No, that is correct. And first of all, to respond to Mr. Haggard's comments, again, he is a civil lawyer. I'm not sure what his experience was in the criminal arena, but to
Okay, and you were a prosecutor for 3 years, almost 4 years, so why do you lack knowledge about what you read in the warrant? I guess technically that was Sabrina that was reading that part, but we're not going to play this like professional title difference means you don't know anything. We're not going to do that. It makes you look stupid.
Allege that a family and or the attorneys, and I think he needs to tread lightly by saying that, referring to the attorneys as an organized crime family. I mean, that is absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's irresponsible to put that out there. And just to point out.
Hold on. He didn't refer to you as an organized crime family.
Post the murder as she fled for 4 months. And now it extends, unfortunately, to the whole family. I mean, it's almost like an organized crime family that's trying to cover things up. And
it's almost like the organized crime family that's trying to cover things up. It's a fucking metaphor, dude. Hold on. Was that where it was sitting at? I really don't like the way that this guy keeps trying to rephrase. Sabrina just did it too. It was our attorneys talking to our clients, plural, but only one client was involved. She wasn't even really part of that group text message. She was just discussed as part of those group text messages.
A family and or the attorneys, and I think he needs to tread lightly by saying that, referring to the attorneys as an organized crime family. I mean, that is absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's irresponsible to put that out there. And just to point out the misleading statements that Mr. Haggard is putting out there, he says, oh, Courtney fled during the time she fled for 4 months. We were in communication with the prosecution, the detectives. She was in rehab in Hawaii. We were in constant communication with the state attorney's office. There's no fleeing. They'd like to create a false narrative, and it's absolutely not true. And the evidence in the criminal case for the murder charge will show that Christian, in fact, was a pretty, let's say, a pretty damaged person.
It was a toxic relationship.
All of this you want to give context and show both sides. Has this man ever, and Miranda, I'm going to default to you, has this man ever said, hey, Courtney's a pretty damaged person?
No doubt, that seems odd.
If I was Courtney Clenney, I would, especially since this laptop thing just dropped on my lap, I would request new counsel. That would be the smartest thing for her defense. She's already been 17 months. What's a little more? Seriously. Because these, if you're a jury, and we've seen how they're, this is obviously a court TV interview, but the body language is the same when they're in court dealing with a motion hearing. Flat out, I don't think a jury is going to find him likable. Maybe Sabrina will come off a little bit like more endearing. But like a jury is going to get an ick from them. I really mean that. Even if they like clean up their demeanor. If they're watching me and I'm criticizing you, I don't think you guys could fix it. The smartest thing Courtney Clenney could do, especially since she just got this whole like group message issue dropped into her lap as an opportunity to say, hey, this is a reason, this warrants me, I want new counsel. I think she could make a case for it. She has the money. Maybe it's depleting now, but if she's got it, she should get new attorneys.
Obvious to those of us who have seen the videos, we've heard the recordings.
Oh, and hold on, and yeah, so not that I recall, yeah, so isn't that funny? Like, we do all these interviews because we want all the context, and then the state's like, we don't care if you do all those interviews or give context. We just don't want you, like, pulling weird accusations about the deceased out, basically, without someone asking you about it. So then he gets on here and he drops off one little detail just about the deceased again. Even though we just saw a disturbed story of Courtney Clenney wandering around the neighborhood threatening to burn someone's house down because he's 18 and won't walk her home and kiss her. But I wonder, they don't mention that in this interview, do they? I bet they won't.
Frank, do a quick follow-up. There was a comment by Michael Hager where he said if the Clenneys have video of Christian being the aggressor, it should be released. Is there video that is different from what we have seen that has been released to the public where it appears that Courtney is the aggressor in that moment?
There is clear-cut evidence of Christian's manipulation, physical abuse. There is, unfortunately, we don't have a video. Obviously, we still are investigating our case.
We're going to talk about Cup, Aaron Cup.
We do have the neighbor's testimony that actually came out on body-worn camera that the state is in possession of that describes a beating, a severe beating by Christian on Courtney. And it's pretty,
Okay, so he's talked about this specific author. I mean, if you were in the last video, like the video premiere before we decided to go live with this, because Miranda was like, here's this interview, here's the warrants. We played that little clip, and we also heard the defense, specifically Frank Preto, hinge on this one example that they have. So you heard the question, like, do you have any videos that show, you know, it was Christian Obumseli that was the aggressor? And he's like, well, we have evidence of his manipulation, and we have eyewitness testimony, and he characterizes it as a beating. But we've heard him talk about that's eyewitness, and we have seen this eyewitness clip. You can go watch it in the last video I uploaded. I'll drop the link. I'll find the original link too. It's like 3 seconds of this neighbor going like, oh yeah, I could see from my balcony Christian was hitting on him, and he sways like twice. He goes like this twice. I think maybe it was 3 times. But it wasn't like he was beating her and beating her and beating her. This is creative licensing that we're seeing Frank Prieto do right now in real time. This is insane.
very violent. The description, it's not, and that describes a beating, a severe beating by Christian on Courtney. And it's pretty, it's very violent. The description, it's not, and the neighbors.
And actually, I want you to, let's go back a little bit more, because he says, well, there's one witness and we're still looking into it. So it seems like he doesn't even have a full, it seems like he wants there to be more information about this one witness. then there might actually be.
So of Christian being the aggressor, it should be released. Is there video that is different from what we have seen that has been released to the public where it appears that Courtney is the aggressor in that moment?
There is clear.
Did you see that pause too? So is there a video? And then he goes, there is clear evidence of his manipulation.
Cut evidence of Christian's manipulation, physical abuse. There is, unfortunately, we don't have a video. Obviously, we still are investigating our case, but we do have the neighbor's testimony that actually came out on body-worn camera. That
Discovery should be moving along, and you're saying, "Oh, we don't have a video of that, but we are still investigating." That sounds like you just want this to look good for whoever's watching this. Well, we're watching it, and it doesn't look
the
good.
state is in possession of, that describes a beating, a severe beating by Christian on Courtney, and it's pretty, it's very violent. The description, it's not, and the neighbors that discuss her being the victim of abuse, there's plenty of evidence out there that the state and the civil attorneys don't want to put out in the media.
All right. Well,
But if it's there, and this is a Sunshine State, you could bring... He's making it seem like it couldn't become public record. That's not... It just doesn't... He doesn't have what he's saying he has. This is hyperbole. I don't know, maybe I should just find... I'm going to keep letting this play.
Frank and Sabrina, I wish I could talk to you even longer about all these details, but we are going to be looking ahead to
Oh, they're
when
closing
this case
it.
goes to trial. If it goes to trial, I understand you all have more investigation ahead in this case. Thank you again for your time and for sharing with us.
Okay, so let me pull up this cup video. Let me see what you guys are saying about what we just looked at. So yeah, talking about the hospital records, there's only one person that there's hospital records of stabbing. Christian was probably trying to swat her off like he does every video. And yeah, from like a balcony, from a distance, you might just see arms. And then they can't investigate. They're too busy breaking into laptops and doing court TV interviews. But again, this is 17 months after the arrest. The state today, or yesterday in the hearing, was like, we're trying to move this along. We don't want to do additional discovery. They should have produced this stuff already. So for the defense to be like, we're still investigating our case. Sure, obviously you're always open to new information. You're never going to stop wanting new information that could help your client, right? But the point is, the discovery period, like 17 months after the arrest. So for him to sit there and kind of like insinuate that they're still putting the case together. Yeah, your case should always be improving every day. But to give the perception like there's more out there and we're just working on getting it. That's why we can't like show it to you today. That's misleading. Yep, that's you put it better than I did, Drea. He went the roundabout way to say they have nothing. And then Drea and hyperbole is too big of a word for a Floridian. Well, I'm from New York. So let me tag over to this tab. I believe this was the one.
It's a painting that's uncomfortable.
Let's see. Let me mute it till I scrub forward and get past different ads. Oh no, this is a different one. I'm on the wrong video. But this guy here on the screen, he's like, I live below them in their Texas apartment, and one day a painting flew down on my balcony. We can just watch this, actually. So he kind of has the same, we saw with the father, Jovan, with the 18-year-old kissing burn your house down story, where he's like, oh, now that I hear that she did something, I wish we see something, say something, right? And I think I found the one with Aaron Cupp. Oh, I think this is going to be another one where they're not going to let me play it. Let me switch to a non-incognito tab. Because they want to make sure they can collect data on me. And this is the extent of the local news interview. And sure, they could have a statement from this guy, but you know.
Exposing corruption, searching for scammers, digging for answers. Do you have a story?
Ugh, it's giving me an ad. And then Erica says, I'm a mom to 2 black men, 34 and 28, and I'm disgusted at what I'm seeing. His life was taken. Major's life could have been taken. And that's crazy. I mean, like, it's one of those things where you don't want to, like, do the victim blaming thing and say, if only they left, right? Because obviously hindsight is 20/20, but I swear that's the only way you can get yourself out of something, because we saw 2 witnesses that have regrets about not saying something, right? The police showed up, at least to the one with the father, and they're like, all right, we're not going to do anything. With the Miami apartment, there's noise complaints left and right, and still nothing's happening. And it's just kind of like, unfortunately, you have to be the one that can remove yourself. 10 seconds can change your life. And that really sucks, because once you're gone, you can't come back and fix things. And obviously, both of your sons are black. They face, you know, we're going to look at this clip from Aaron Cupp, and it's kind of like, what if he's seeing what he thinks he's seeing, and he really thinks he's seeing something, but he's perceiving it a certain way because there's someone with black skin and someone with white skin and someone who clearly looks female. You know, she's got long blonde hair, and someone who clearly looks male, because Christian Obumseli looks like he was like more muscular and statured. And both of those perception came into play, and that framed how he perceived what he was seeing happening on this balcony. So it sucks. And then let's see. Let me fast forward before I turn the volume on. It's so short, this little interview with this guy, this one neighbor, Aaron Cupp.
One neighbor who tells me that he has a very clear view of the couple's apartment said a week before the stabbing, things were off and that Clenney was the one getting physically abused.
I could not tell if it was open-handed or closed-handed, but he was swinging at her.
Police say in the past...
I couldn't tell if it was open-handed or closed-handed, but he was swinging at her. And how did, not Puglisi, how did Frank Prieto describe it? A vicious beating. Beating and beating, vicious beating, very violent. I don't know. Does this guy's body language look like he's describing a very vicious, violent...
off and that Clenney was the one getting physically abused.
I could not tell if it was open-handed or closed-handed, but he was swinging at her.
Police say in the past 3 months, they've responded to multiple disturbance calls at the couple.
So, I mean, let's see. The term social media star needs to end. Yeah, I agree. Especially, like, just call her an OnlyFans model. Like, I guess that she went on, like, Instagram Live once in a while, but, I mean, sounds like a downplay to go from OnlyFans to Instagram, like, social media star. And then my thing is, she could have gotten him some help. But that's true, too, because in those text messages, the text messages that we were able to see, he's like, I'm trying to start therapy. You could have been like, hey, babe, here's $1.50, $1.25. Go get help. Let's heal. You heal too. If that 18-year-old was a girl and Courtney was a guy, that father would have definitely pressed charges. Yeah, absolutely. And then, yep, I think, Eric, you're responding to the social media star needing to end as a term. And yeah, Drea, agreed, right? I'm not crazy. I'm not just sitting here, like, not understanding what an attorney's trying to say. That doesn't sound quite vicious to me. His swinging definitely looks like swatting. And it's, like, very, like, calm, casual. And Miranda, I don't know what else they're talking about. I'm assuming they have a statement that is longer than just those few bits of words. And by the way, guys, no shade at all to, like, if this guy Aaron's like, hey, it looked to me like he was swinging, I don't even know if it was open hand or closed hand. Like, whatever. It's not this guy that's out here saying, unless we see the statement, right? If the statement comes out and it's suddenly like, vicious, beating, bloody all the time. I witnessed it with my own eyes. I was right here. Like, then we can change our story. But it's not this guy giving this local interview that's saying he was viciously beating her. It seems like it's Frank Prito, the attorney's creative licensing, that's taking the clip we just saw and reframing it and hyperbolizing it. Yeah, just because you have an OnlyFans account doesn't make you a star. And then they're setting it up, an abuse self-defense case for sure. Well, that's another reason, and it's not like saying I want to help her strategically, but with this weird thing, I don't know, maybe that's why they didn't want to charge the attorneys. Maybe that's like too much of an uphill battle. Maybe they don't have enough information to just be like, hey, why were you trying to get into this laptop? I mean, maybe we'll see something else develop with that. But at the same time, if I was Courtney Clenney, I'd be like, this could be a good opportunity for me to get different counsel. Because my counsel, for whatever reason, even if it's not just this laptop issue, chemistry doesn't look good. Juries will like and dislike who they want to in that courtroom. From watching the hearing today, I thought Mr. Quinn from the state, the prosecution, I thought he was just came off level-headed, and you know me, I'd rather be critical of the prosecutors, always, above all else. But I think, you know, Quinn looked put together, he spoke normally, he was easy to understand. Nothing that I think would irk me if I was a juror sitting there having to listen to what he was saying. But Frank would annoy me, and Sabrina probably would annoy me. Especially, I guess I know kind of how I just saw her act in a Court TV interview, but I think she would get under my skin just as a juror that saw her in the courtroom only. And even that alone can affect the outcome of your case, because a jury is not going to trust or like the way a witness is being questioned if they don't like or trust the attorney or prosecutor asking the questions. It's not insignificant. But yeah, I don't know. If I was Courtney, that would be my advice. And that would be my thinking. Like, if I can afford to, if I'm fine sitting here for a few more months anyway, maybe a whole new defense team. And then she actually had a large, okay, so maybe she started over on Instagram following that carried over to OnlyFans. That kind of makes sense. Oh, you know, because she was doing like weight building when she was dating like Shawn Roden. And hold on, do I have that here? Let's talk about that while we're live. And then we can get to like closing this out before this is us going through the Wikipedia of Courtney Clenney's life. Was it this one? There was a different article than what I'm looking at. With Shawn Roden. There's a rumor that she was dating Shawn Roden, broke his jaw. And I think I had done this on another computer, so I don't have my history. I have a Rolling Stone article. I think it was Muscle Insider. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, like, this explains, like, the Instagram background, because she was doing, like, fitness and whatever. That type of influencer. But there's rumors here. So, this Shawn Roden's ex-girlfriend. It also seems this wasn't the first time Courtney Clenney resorted to violence towards one of her boyfriends. She once had a relationship with the late Mr. Olympia, Shawn Roden, while he was still married. Courtney was supposedly the one who broke Shawn's jaw in February of 2017. According to Nick Trigili, and this YouTube video is taken down, it's not up anymore. This was caused by an uppercut from Courtney after she found out that he was still married and they were having an affair. We weren't sure if this was caused by a left or right uppercut, but the power behind that punch was devastating. If you look back, you won't find any videos or press talking about how Shawn actually broke his jaw. So this now makes sense, even though we admit it sounds hard to believe. And then look, social media influencer. So 2016, she's doing like bikini competitions and, you know, so the social media star. But yeah. And then let's see. Yeah, you know that, yeah, fair enough. So Miranda's like, I don't think Courtney has very good discernment. And then, oh no, do I have to add another person to my rabbit hole list of things to go down? And then Drea's like, I'm up here. Oh, you're all the way in London? Have a late midnight snack. And Courtney has a strong uppercut. I bet. I mean, she's lifting. Just because someone's female doesn't mean they can't have upper body strength. And then I don't know if there's anything else like that juicy in here, but there is a Rolling Stone article that did a deep dive. No surprise, they go and look at the history. Let's see if it knocks up a paywall or if it lets me read. Let me switch back to incognito because I'm not signing into Rolling Stone. And then, okay, let me switch to this. So Rolling Stone has a very, very, very long article about her relationship history. And they address this Shawn Roden thing several years after the fact. Wait, let's read the paragraph before it. Okay. One of the stranger stories circulating about Clenney's alleged history of violence is that Clenney may have broken the jaw of professional bodybuilder Shawn Roden. On April 12th, bodybuilder Nick Trigili posted a video, and you'll see this is down. So, video unavailable. So he posted on his YouTube channel where he claimed Clenney and Roden had been romantically involved while Clenney was training at Gold's Gym in Venice, California. Trigili further claimed that in 2017, when Clenney learned Roden was married at the time, she hit him with an uppercut that shattered his jaw. And they're quoting these specific terms. We don't have the video, but I don't know. I criticize Rolling Stone, but I want to take this at face value. Trigili added, "This is allegedly, right, hearsay, but I have a lot of people confirming this. Roden died of a reported heart attack last November." Trigili told Rolling Stone by email that he'd heard this claim directly from Roden himself, whom he considered a close friend, as well as from Roden's ex-wives. While Trigili initially agreed to an interview, he subsequently stopped responding to communications. Interesting. Aspects of this claim are still verifiable, however. Although, again, if you're close with Roden and Roden didn't want to make any fuss about how his jaw got broken, Aspects of this claim are still verifiable, however. In the fall of 2017, Clenney posted pictures of herself. Yeah, she does tag Shawn Roden in these, I think. Oh, no, this is her at the competition. They're not going to show me. Let's see. Competing in a fitness competition. My first NPC bikini competition, said a caption from October 2017. Who thinks I should compete in nationals next year? Oh, this is the one where she credits Shawn Roden. So, fueled by my favorite thermogenic fat burner, OxyShred by EHP Labs. Use my discount code. And then Flexitron Roden. So, she tags him in it. So, she tags Shawn. And then these two were also photographed together with her we just saw that picture in the other article. And then there's Roden's jaw. Several years after the fact, Roden gave interviews in which he described training for the 2017 Mr. Olympia bodybuilding competition with a broken jaw. Although he did not say how the injury happened, there was no off season. And I think this interview is actually still live. Oh, I don't know if he'll jump to it. Let's see.
Of your prep, but
sorry,
it didn't
I
stop you.
didn't have an off season. Let's put it that way.
Right. Okay.
For me, it was there was no off season. It was like jaw was breaking in February, wire shut. March, April, May, and I was just kind of like, you know what, I'm not gonna say a word to anyone. Like, so he makes a joke there. My jaw is wired shut. I'm not gonna say a word to anyone, which is like kind of. If we have these two articles, like, well, it was rumored that Courtney did it, and he just didn't say she did it. And he just makes this lighthearted joke here. So I'm going to bookmark this. Let me add it to like my save playlist. Oh, because I'm in incognito. I keep trying to do things. I'll drop this here if you guys want to check out that video. I will go back and add it to the description. Same thing. I actually did a video like breaking this stuff down, and then I'm just not going to get around to editing it. And then there's so much new stuff now. But I'm surprised you didn't know about it already, Miranda. I'm happy I got you some tea. But yeah, so I mean, they were around each other, and this guy who's now passed away, Nick Trigili, was like, he told me personally that she was the one that caused the broken jaw. And then we have those pictures. Where does she have her hands all messed up? Have you guys seen that photo shoot from Aspen? The same time that video comes out, afterwards, Christian Obumseli apparently comes back with a stitch on his lip, the friend says. And Courtney Clenney has these crazy... Let's see where I put them. You know, I think I have a Google Drive with it. That way I can find them really quickly and share them. So this is just a random drive folder that I like created and then never did anything with. But when she's in Aspen, she's got these like, oh, that's the actual night of the crime. Hold on, let me get to the right one. Hopefully I put them in here. Yeah, okay, so this is from a photo shoot in Aspen where that video is from. These photos are from after that video was recorded. She's like got blood on her. She's got like discoloration here. She's got bruises here. She's clearly in a different outfit. She's just like beaming and taking these pictures though. And then this one, her hands are all taped up. So there's that. And she's not the delicate flower. Yeah, no. Oh, duh. Yeah, he was married, so he had to protect that. See, this is why you guys are so great to have in the chat, because I'll just spin right over something and forget the obvious. And you guys are like, no, it's that. And then, yeah, is that roid rage, Your Honor? I mean, you never know. But let me end the tea there. I don't know if you guys had seen these pictures from Aspen. I'm sure they'll come in at trial because they were taken by a professional photographer. It's not like some private picture she sent or whatever. But yeah, you guys, anything else before we close out? I think that story with her and the 18-year-old kid is just insane. And then strike 3, counselor. I agree. So, I don't know. This case gets more and more interesting by the day. And it's like, not only do we find out something new about her, but then the attorneys keep going out and creating new stuff for us too. And I tried to be like generous and level-headed to them in the beginning, especially since I don't like to give prosecution an inch, right? But didn't even work out. And then no, Miranda, thanks Miranda, by the way, because Miranda sent over, we looked at the warrants, we looked at that video, we looked at the interview. You have great attention to detail. And again, offer always stands if you want to jump up here and talk about anything. But I know that not everybody likes to get up and be on, public YouTube. So everyone remember that next time you see Miranda James in any of these videos, she's very resourceful, and she's the one that brought us these documents here today. Miranda, you know what you're talking about when it comes down to case updates for Courtney Clenney, and I appreciate that. And then I never saw Chicago. Okay, every time I do a stream, I leave with like 3 things I gotta go watch or read or learn about, which I appreciate. It's just a year from now, you're gonna see me say like, I finally watched Chicago. But you guys all have a good night. I'm going to jump out of here. Anything major that happens, we can talk about it because I'm suddenly interested in the Courtney Clenney case. Thanks so much to all of you guys for coming in here and talking about it. So that way I don't feel crazy for reacting on my own. You guys have a good night. Happy Friday. Happy Saturday if it's there for you already. And then, I don't know, I might disappear for 24 hours to just like play video games and avoid YouTube and then come back on Sunday with something. But you guys all take care whatever you do and speak soon. Looking forward to our next chat.